Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay,
Start
so
now.
shall we start right now?
Yeah, we can start.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Nishita, a coordinator here at the AI Club in IIT Madras. Welcome to your very first session of Summer School 2024 for AI. We'll be kickstarting your journey into machine learning with the introduction into Python. Hold up, I'll share my screen right now. Okay, so is my screen visible, guys?
Yeah, it's visible.
Cool. Okay, so like I said, we'll be kickstarting your journey into machine learning with an introduction to Python, the most commonly used programming language in AI. In the remaining sessions, you will dive deeper into the field of machine learning and deep learning by understanding the many important machine learning algorithms and their code implementations. So in the next session, you'll get introduced to the libraries NumPy and Pandas that are used for data pre-processing. And in today's session, I'll be covering the basics of Python, data types, operators, conditional statements, loops, functions, and the object-oriented programming aspect of Python. Then my teammate Harshit will introduce a few data structures used in Python and present an interesting problem you guys can try. So we'll share the QR code for attendance in the middle of the session and at the end. Fill in the form once with your registered mail ID. So, with the instructions being said, let's get started. But wait, before I start, how many of you are familiar with any programming language? Like you learned for school or for your boards before? Raise your hands. Not necessarily Python, any programming language. Cool. So, a good chunk of you are familiar with a programming language. Well, this session will serve as a good recap if you're already familiar. But if you're a beginner, no need to worry. It'll help you understand some fundamentals of Python. Okay, so you guys can put your hand down. No issue. Sure. So let's get started. Intro to Python. Like I've stated before, these are the topics we'll be going through, covering today. So let's get started with the intro. So Python is a programming language created by Van Rossum, and it has many advantages. It has a simple syntax that enables us to read and type the code very easily. So that's why it's used by beginners and experts. It has many libraries and modules which allow us to use it for many purposes. It also has dynamic typing, implying that we don't have to declare the data type of a variable explicitly, unlike in C and C++ where you have to. Okay, so it also is an object-oriented programming language, and I'll get into that. But why do we have to use it for machine learning? That's because it has libraries like NumPy for numerical calculations and Pandas for analyzing the data, which play a very important role in machine learning. It also consists of many useful machine learning libraries you'll see in the upcoming sessions. So let's get into the basics. Variables. What are variables? Variables are nothing but storage containers for values. So while this is how we declare a variable, while declaring it, you have to assign a value to the variable using the equal to sign. So for example, over here, there's a variable called name with the value Anupama. And there's a variable called mathmark with the value 93.5. Similarly, the variable age stores the value 70. Okay, so that's how we declare variables, and these are the values stored by. Now we can display the value stored by the variables using the print statement. So with the syntax print, the output, whatever you want it to be displayed, and you close the brackets. Right. So for example, over here, I'm printing details are name, age, math mark, and those corresponding values of the variables will be printed. So also you don't have to necessarily type in an output. Sometimes you can just print an empty line and there'll be nothing inside the print statement. Right. Now I'm declaring another variable called class over here and assigning it a value 12. But this hasn't red underlined and it's raising an error when I run it. Why is this error come? That's because class over here is a special word. It's called a keyword. It's basically reserved words that have a specific meaning to the Python interpreter. So they cannot be used as variable names or function names. Okay, so there are a list of Python keywords over here. These are going to be used a lot. And you don't have to memorize all of these. You'll become familiar with them as you go. Okay, so there's another way of printing statements that's using formatted strings. Instead of typing everything in double quotations and then a comma and then the output or the variable, you can just use you can type F and enclose everything, all the content within the double quotations, except you can separate the variable name using curly braces. That's fine. Now you can see there's some green color text over here, right? Followed, starting with a hashtag. This green color text is nothing but comments. So they start with a hashtag and they're just ignored by the interpreter. So they won't raise any error, though they randomly appear in the middle of the code. They're basically like used to display additional information next to the code, and they overall like improve the readability of the code. They don't see now in this cell, I have 2 comments, and when I run it, there's no output or an error. So because these lines are just ignored by the interpreter. Right, now let's go to data types. So data types are nothing but categorization of data items. Variables can store different types of values. For example, we saw a variable called name storing something in double quotations. Then we saw a variable storing a decimal value 93.5, all that. So basically, depending on the data type, variables will have different set of properties and operations that can be performed on them. Okay, so now these are the few built-in data types offered by Python. You can see under numeric, there's integer, complex numbers, floats. Floats basically mean decimal points. Then we have dictionary, Boolean, set, and under sequence, we have strings and lists, so on. So characters, words, or sentences come under the string data type. And under Boolean data type, we have true or false. There's also one more data type that's not mentioned over here. That's called the none data type. It only consists of the word none, which means nothing. So let's see some code to understand different data types. So you can see over here, I'm assigning the value 10 to a variable x and assigning the value 34 to a variable y. Clearly, the data types of these two variables are integers. Next, I have a variable called decimal that takes in the value 1.23. So that's a float data type. Now over here, there's a string data type assigned to the variable name. And when assigning strings to the variable, you have to enclose them in single quotations or double quotations. That's how Python identifies it as a string. Now there's one more variable called z, which is equal to y less than x. What does this mean? Why is 34 x is 10? 34 less than 10, that's false. So z is false. Z basically stores the value false. Now if you see the type of z or the data type of z, it's basically storing a Boolean value. And if you print it, it'll come, and if you see the data type, it'll come as bool or bool, short for Boolean. So you can see the data type of the variables using the type function. So the type function, it's pretty simple. You just have to give in the variable you want to see, and Python automatically detects the data type of the variable and prints it. So over here, you can see it is integer, float, string, right? String is represented by str, again, a short form. Okay. So now there's like, if we want to convert data from one type to another, we can use something known as typecasting. Okay, so in typecasting, we have to just mention the type that we want to convert the data into. Like over here, this one is present as an integer, and I want to convert it into a float value. So I type float over here. And if I want to convert it into string, str. Again, not string, str. And if I want to convert this float value into an integer, I type int. But it won't round off the number. It'll just strip away the decimal point. Like 0.6 is just removed. So C will become 5. That's about typecasting. So converting data from one type to another. Now when I print the type of A using the type function, I get the correct types, these types. Now there's something known as the input statement. So input statement is used when we want to take input from the user. So this is the syntax for the input statement. I type input, and then you can enter any message to be displayed. So you can see like this. So for example, I'm taking the class name variable, and its value will be taken in from the user using the input statement. So when you run this cell, it gives it first outputs enter the class, and then you can enter the class, say 12. Then it will print you are in class 12. And if you see the type name of this, if you see the data type of this variable, it's string. Why is it string? It's string because in the input statement registers the input value taken in as string automatically. So that's why if you want to, if you want to say input only integers, then you have to typecast it into an integer like I've done here. Now if I see the type, now if I run the type function, I get integer. So again, input statement registers the input value taken in as string automatically by default. Now let's go into operators. So operators are used to perform different processes on variables and constants. There are like many types of operators: arithmetic operators, comparison operators, logical operators, and assignment operators. So they're nothing but the symbols. And the value on which the operator is applied to, it's called operand. Okay, so let's go through some in detail. So coming to arithmetic operators, they're used to perform simple arithmetic calculations. Like you can see over here, I declare it as 5, B I declare it as 6. And when you go through all these are simple arithmetic operations that are being performed. These two can be different symbols, but they're used in maths, so it's familiar. For exponent, we use double asterisk and not the powered sign we use for typing usually. So you can see when I print all these, they're perfectly outputting. So that's about arithmetic operators. Coming to comparison operators, these are used to compare two expressions and they return the overall truth value of the expression. For example, over here, I'm using a comparison operator to check the equality between A and B. So when I print A and B, A is clearly not equal to B. A is 5, B is 6, so it's printing false. Now if I check the data type of this expression, I get Boolean because it's returning the value false. So like that, it returns the true or false for all these expressions. Next, coming to logical operators. So logical operators are also similar to comparison operators. They do return the truth value of the overall expression. Now, now let's look at the logical operators. OR is used to check when either of the condition on either side of it is true or not. So if any one condition is true, it prints true. And is used to check if both the conditions are true or not. So if any one condition is false, it'll print false. Not is just, it just complements true to false and false to true. So it just complements the expression. So you can see over here, A less than B or A equal to B. This is true. This is false. So true or false, it'll print true. That's what OR does. And then both of these expressions are true. So it'll print true. And similarly, not just negates it. So it'll give false. Now coming to assignment operators. So these are used to assign values to a variable. We were familiar with the equal to sign. It just assign the value 2 to x. Now if I print x, I get 2. Now what is this? This is just a compact notation for x is equal to x plus 2. Meaning that you first add 2 to x and then you store that as x. So it adds the right hand value to the variable and then stores it as that variable itself. So it's equivalent to this. And when I print it, x basically becomes 4. This 2 is added to 2 and it's stored as x. So it becomes 4. Now coming to the none data type, none is a keyword used to define a null value or nothing at all. It's not the same as 0. It's not the same as 0, false, or any empty string. Keep that in mind. It's a data type of its own. And it only contains one thing. That's none or nothing. Okay. So only none can be none. There's no other word or anything that comes under this data type. So over here in this code, I'm declaring A as none and the variable A as none. And when I print A or 4, I'm basically using the or operator and I get 4 because it prints the first true value and only unless both the values are true, it doesn't print anything. It'll print none itself. So you can see this when I print
sorry
C, it'll print
for
yeah.
disturbing. Can you go a little slow?
Okay, yeah, sure. Sorry. Okay. So with that, we're done with operators. Now let's go to conditional statements. So conditional statements are used to make decisions in Python. Okay, so the keywords are if, elif, and else. Now let's see what happens in conditional statements. So as per the syntax, this basically checks the condition next to the keywords. And if any of those conditions are true, it'll execute the body under that keyword. So like you can see over here, there's a condition next to the keyword if. So if this condition is true, it'll execute these lines of code, the code that's below the if statement. Next, if that condition was suppose it was false, then it'll go to the elif block. And in the elif block, it'll check the condition next to the elif keyword. Elif stands for else if. So it'll check the elif condition. If this condition is false, it'll go to the next block. Otherwise, if this condition is true, then it'll execute the statements under the elif block. Okay, another elif statement. So there can be multiple elif blocks, and finally there's some else block. So else block accounts for all the remaining possibilities, and if none of the above conditions are true, like none of the elifs and ifs are true, then the else block statements gets executed. Okay, so that's about the conditional statements. Now sometimes there can be conditional statements inside conditional statements, like this if this condition is true, then there can be a bunch of if conditions inside the block of the if condition, like that. So let's get into the code a bit. So there's a simple if else program over here. I declare a variable called age equal to 17, and if age is greater than or equal to 18, I print you can vote, else you can't vote. And clearly since age is 17, which is less than 18, it'll print you can't vote. Now there's a bigger program over here, so let's go through it. So summer is equal to false, winter is equal to true, rainy is equal to false. Basically, I'm saying it's winter season, or like I'm declaring these variables. Now, if summer, that means if summer is true, print let's eat ice cream. But summer is false, so it'll skip this. And next it'll go to the next condition, that's elif. So elif winter is true. Winter is true, so it'll print let's play with snow and ignore these two. Or you can just check it. Elif rainy is false, so it won't do this, and it will obviously ignore the else once if any one of these conditions are true. So nested conditional statements. So nested conditional statements, like I said, are there's basically if, and then there are a bunch of basically there are conditional statements inside conditional statements. Like over here, I'm trying to check if a number is positive or negative. So I input the number, or I declare a number I as minus 15. If I is not equal to 0, you go through this. So I is not equal to 0. This condition is satisfied. So it will execute the code under this block, under this if statement. So it'll write, so it'll check if is greater than, if I is greater than 0, I is clearly not greater than 0. So it'll go to the next line and it'll print negative. This condition is satisfied. This I less than 0 is satisfied. So it'll print negative. Next we have the, then it won't check these conditions. Else if I declare I as 0, then it'll go to this. This is not true, so it'll come here. It'll come to this condition. It'll check this condition. See, we're using the equal to sign and comparing I and 0. Not assigning I as 0. We're not assigning I as 0, so you're not putting equal to. You have to put double equal to. Checking this condition, and if I were to take I as 0, it'll check this and it'll print 0. But over here, I took I as minus 15, so it's printing negative. So with this, we're done with conditional statements. Let's go to looping statements. So looping means to repeatedly execute a block of statements until a particular condition is satisfied. Okay, so there's an important term over here that's called iteration. One iteration means to go through the loop once. So there are two types of loops in Python. That's the for loop and the while loop. So the for loop is used when the number of iterations are known. Like, and the syntax is for the condition, execute this bunch of statements. Okay, and also one more important thing in Python is the indentation. Google Colab and other they take care of it for you. They automatically indent, but keep in mind that there should be a tab space over here. And even for the if nested conditional statements, there should be a tab space over here every time after the if, and don't forget the colons also. Right. Okay, so coming back to the syntax, and there's similar syntax for the while loop as well. While this condition is true, these are the statements you're supposed to execute. And while loop is used when the number of iterations are not known, and the loop will terminate based on a given criteria, based on this condition. Okay, and there are something similar to nested conditional statements, like nested loops. So there'll be loops within loops. So that's about the for loop and the while loop, two important loops. Now let's go to the code implementation for those two. So for I in range 1 to 10, what does this range function do? Range function gets a range of integers from 1 to 9. The last number, 10, it's not included in the range function. It won't be included. So basically, we're doing for I in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, not 10. We don't include 10. 10 is excluded. And then for each of those I, you print them all. And by default, they print like this, because print statement, once it prints, it goes to the next line by default. Okay, unless you put some other end character. Okay, so it'll print 1, 2, 3, 4, one after the other, one below the other. So for each of those I, it prints I. So that's what the for loop does. This is a very simple for loop. So now there's something known as a break statement. Now, if you want to suddenly come out of the loop based on some condition, you can use the break statement. For example, over here, for I in range 1 to 10, that means for all these numbers, I print I, but if I is greater than 5, I come out of the loop. So what will this do? Clearly, this will print all the numbers from 1 to 6, not 1 to 5. Because I first print the number and then I check if I is greater than 5, I break out. So 1, it prints, I is clearly less than 5, so it skips that. Then it'll come to 2 and it'll print 2, so on. When 5, it'll print 5. If I is greater than 5, 5 is not greater than 5, so it won't break. It'll print 5 and it'll go to 6. Next, it prints 6 and then 6 is greater than 5, so it'll break. It'll break off and this loop will stop running. Now let's come to the while loop. So this bunch of statements, well, they're not that hard. Over here, the basic essence of this code is that it takes in a number, and while the number is not 0, it adds it to the total and outputs the total when you enter the number as 0. So first we initialize the total to be 0, take in a number, and while that number is not 0, you add that number to the total. You add it initially, first you add it to 0, then the total changes, then you input another number. So you can see over here that we keep inputting numbers till we enter 0. When I enter 0, when the number is 0, it'll come out of this while loop because this condition is only for number not equal to 0. And it will print the sum is total. So that's what happens when I enter 0. You can see the output over here. Okay, so that's about the loop statements. Now let's go to functions. Functions are very important in Python, especially in machine learning. You'll define a lot of functions. So functions are basically chunk of codes used to accomplish specific tasks. They're defined by us or by the user, and they're executed only when they're called. So they're executed only when they're called. They can be called multiple times. How do you call a function? With the function name, the opening bracket, closing bracket, and you can enter some parameters. Let's get into that. So it takes in the input through parameters, processes it or runs it through the lines of code, and gives you the output. Okay, but before we get into the function code, how do we define a function stuff, we have to understand some important aspects of the code. So def is a keyword that we type before we type the function name and the parameters involved. Okay, they basically say that this is a function to the interpreter. Next, arguments. So arguments are nothing but the values given in place of parameters by the user while calling the function. So when we call a function, we have to mention the function's name, and then we have to open the bracket and pass in some arguments that the function uses and gives you the output. Now, return. So return statement is optional. You don't have to use it, but you have to use it when you want to return some output that the function computes. Okay, so that's about the function. That's about function. Now let's see some code. Okay, so this, I'm defining a very basic function over here, def odd even now. What does this mean? So this means I'm defining a function called odd underscore even, and I'm passing in a parameter called none. Then it uses none, and it based on none, it returns even if the number is divisible by 2, else it returns odd. So it's basically a function to check whether the number is even or odd. So how do I call this function or execute this line of code? Basically, I pass in the parameter and I type the function name. So print odd even 8. What does this mean? It'll check if 8 is odd or even. Clearly 8 is even, so it'll return even. And over here, it'll check if 5 is even or odd, and it'll return odd. Now suppose I don't use a function. Okay, and I don't like functions and I want to type it normally, then I'll have to type a lot of lines of code, like you can see over here, for each and every number. So instead of that, if I just define this chunk, this if else statement chunk as something, and repeatedly call that something, it'll be much simpler, right? See, it's done way more in with a lot lesser lines of code. So that's why functions are used, especially when we perform complicated tasks. Okay, so it's tedious to check for many values. So that's why functions are used. Okay, so I've been explaining a lot, but before I explain some more, I want you guys to scan this QR code and answer this slide or question. Okay, and this is the question in case the indentation is not proper in the website, but scan this QR code and give me the answer for this question. Do try it, guys. I'll give you 2 minutes. Okay, so let's see what you guys have answered. So these guys are typing a lot of answers. I'll wait for 1 more minute. Try. You guys can try. Okay, so this is the question in case you guys aren't able to see it properly with the indentation. This is how it is.
You can open slido.com and type the number 6215648. That's below the QR code. That
Yeah.
will also work.
Okay, so I'll explain the answer to you guys. So if you guys got this answer, then you're right. Many of you typed this answer, and I'll tell you why it's not that. Okay, so this is the answer. Why is that so? So let's go through the code. So x is equal to 4 for I in range 1 to 5, and for then there's a nested loop for j in range 1 to 1 to I plus 1. That means j can only take the value, I can take the values from 1 to 4. J can take the values from 1 to I. And for each value of I in this range, you have to take a value of j and print that value of j. But I told you guys, print will automatically go to the next line once it prints something. But I've defined something else to end it. So it doesn't automatically go to the next line. It stays in the same line and prints the next number. So let's go through it. So first for I is equal to 1. J can only take the value 1. So it'll print 1. Next it'll go, I will take the value 2. And j can take the value from 1 and 2. So j will print 1 and it'll end with nothing. So it won't go to the next line. It'll print immediately 2. Next I will go to next iteration. So I will become 3. J can be 1, 2, and 3. So it'll print 1, 2, 3 without going to the next line because of this end statement. So, and then finally, when I is 4, j can take the values from 1 to 4, and all those will be printed right next to each other because the print statement does not allow it to go to the next line. We change the end of the print statement. The end character is just nothing. Don't go to the next line. That's what this means. Now, suppose I introduce a print statement along this indentation. What happens? Like over here. Now what happens is, after, let's take the first iteration. When I is 1, then j can be 1 because j goes from 1 to I plus 1. That means it can take the value from 1 to I. And since I is 1, it can only take the value 1. We print j, we print 1. Then we stay in the same line. Then in that line, we do the print statement again. This print statement does not have any end character. So it can go to the next line. And it does. It goes to the next line. In this line, it prints nothing and goes to the next line. That's what this extra print statement does. Then I will again take the next iteration. That's 2. And j will be 1 and 2. Those two will be printed right next to each other because the end character is this. And after that, we have the print statement. That means it'll leave this line and go to the next line. It'll print nothing over here and go to the next line. Over there, it'll print again for the next iteration. That means I is 3. So it'll print j will be 1, 2, and 3. So all those will get printed right next to each other. So print j, first we print 1, end character is nothing. That means don't go to the next line. It'll print 2, next iteration. That means next j is 2. So it'll print 2. It won't go to the next line. Next j is 3. It'll print 3. It won't go to the next line. And it will print nothing. Next line of code is print. So it just prints nothing in this line. In the 1, 2, 3 line, it prints nothing. And then it goes to the next iteration. But see, this print statement does not have a end character. That means it'll just go to the new line by default. So it'll go to the new line. This pointer will be on the new line. And it'll go to the next value of I, next iteration of I. That's 4. So in 4, then J will again take all the values from 1 to 4, and those will be printed right next to each other because of the end character. Finally, after the number 4 is printed for the value of J, we end with nothing. That means we still stay in the same line. But because of this print statement, after that, we have to execute the print statement. So this print statement prints nothing over here and goes to the next line, right? Because no end character is given. So that's why this program will print this. And due to the absence of this print, the bottommost print in this program, there's no bottommost print, right? So it won't go to the new line. That's why it's this. So I put this to just like throw you guys off. So don't worry if you don't get it. Pay attention more to the details and understand why this end and the default word print does. Okay, so with that, let's go to a slightly trickier but very important concept called OOPS. Pay attention properly in this. Okay, so OOPS stands for Object-Oriented Programming, right? So as there are only a few built-in data types in Python, like integers, floats, strings, we can create new data types or objects as per our wish using the OOPS aspect of Python. So you saw like how x is equal to 2, right? So that was an integer. So integer is also a data type. And basically, instead of using only those data types that are already built in, we can create new data types. So a data type gives a set of properties to an instance of the data type, right? Instance of the data type means x is equal to 2. So x is an instance of the integer data type. So like that, now x has a set of properties, like I've said before. So similarly, we can give new properties, a new set of properties to our data type. How do we do this? We do this using classes. Now, what are classes? Classes basically contain the blueprints that are used to make objects or that are used to make new data types. Okay, classes consist of two things, attributes and methods. Attributes are nothing but the features of an object. Okay, basically the features of the class. Methods are nothing but different functions or operators of the class, and they should be called like, you know how we call normal functions, right? We write the function name and open bracket, close bracket, pass in the parameters. But when you're calling a method inside some other class, you have to define the object and then you have to use a dot operator and then function and then call the method. So that's about classes. Now, objects are nothing but instances of the class, like how I said x is an instance of the integer data type. Int is a class, so x is the instance of that. Similarly, we can create objects which are just instances of the class. Okay, like for example, if we have a class called car, then you can create C1, which is an instance of the car. Okay, so now each class instance or each objects has some attributes to it, and you can use methods to modify those attributes of the class you can use those methods to modify the attributes of a class of an object in the class. Okay, so before we go into some more technical terms about class and object-oriented programming, let's see the code. So coming to the code for classes. Yeah, so you guys can see this, right?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, so here I'm defining an example class called book, under which I give some attributes to every object under this class. Okay, so these attributes are type and series name. So a type is an attribute and its value is fiction. Series name is an attribute and it's Harry Potter. So these are basically attributes that every object of the class or every instance of the class has mandatorily. Now I define another, I write a method for this class. I define a method for this class. That's like reading. The method is called reading and it prints the word read whenever I call this function or method. So for example, right now I'm instantiating an object or I'm creating an object, creating an instance of a book class by typing like this. So this is how you create an object belonging to a class or create an instance of a class. You basically type the class name, open bracket, close bracket, and you can give any name for the variable. Okay. Next, if I want to run this method under the book class, I have to type c1 dot reading. That's how you call a method under a class. Okay. You have to type the object's name and then put dot and type the method. Okay, with open bracket and close bracket. That's simple. Now I told you guys these attributes, type and series name, are shared by every object in the class, are shared by every object in the class. But now, what if I want to define an attribute or a property like the name of the book, for example? Like in the Harry Potter series, we have Philosopher's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, and so on, right? So every instance has a different, or every object has a different value of that property, the name property. So how do we do this? We cannot type it over here. If we type it over here, then every object of the class has it, or every book of this class has it. But not every book is called Philosopher's Stone or Chamber of Secrets, right? So that's why we use something known as the init method. So you can see the init method, define init method. That's how you define the init method. And you can give some attributes that are instance specific. That means these attributes change from object to object. So different objects will have different attributes, different name and price attributes. So this is the instance specific attribute or the object specific attribute. And this will be the value of the that attribute. Like price is the attribute and price one is the value of the attribute. So this is called the init method, and it's basically used to create instance variables. So what are instance variables? Like I've said, class variables are variables that are shared by every instance of the class, and their value is assigned right after we write class book. You saw those type and series name, right? They're shared by every object in that class. Instance variables are unique to each class. Their value will be assigned inside the constructor, inside that init function, init method. Okay, so init method, init basically stands for initialization. So it's used to initialize an object state or the attributes of an object. Okay, now this init method, something that we have to keep in mind is that this init method runs as soon as we call an object of the class by typing book, like how I typed over there book. If it had an init method, then it will run as soon as I initiate and as soon as I instantiate an object. Okay, every time if I define an object like b1 is equal to book or b1 is equal to class, whatever, if I instantiate an object, the init method runs immediately. So if I don't type in this name and price parameter like I've done here, it raises an error. Okay, before I get into this, what is this self doing over here? This word, it's very confusing. Okay, but self is basically a reference to the current instance of a class. So the current instance, it just refers to the object. That's it. You can use any other word in place of self, like someone or any other word. But keep in mind that that word should come in the starting as the first parameter for every method you define under the class. Like you can see, this is the first parameter. Self is over here, self is over here. So it's the first parameter for every method of the class. So that's about self and the init method. Okay, so now I'm defining an object called b1, which is equal to book. That means the class name, and I have to give it the attributes. I have to give it the values of the attributes. The Philosopher's Stone and its price is say 200. B2 is another book, is another object of the class book with the name Chamber of Secrets and its price 300. Now let's display some details of B1. So let's display some details of the first object. So print B1 details, and you know what this end does, right? It does not go to the next line. It prints it immediately, right next to the B1 details. Okay, so B1 printing, I call the method using the object name dot printing. So what does this do? It prints all the series name, the book's name, using the attributes basically. It prints that. And you can see over here the output, it perfectly printed it. Next, if I want to access specific attributes of an object, so you can access those also via the dot operator. Similar to the method, like how I'm accessing, like see, you can see over here b1 dot price, b2 dot name. So I'm accessing specific attributes. I can even access b1 dot series name. I get Harry Potter. So that's basically the essence of classes and why we use them. Now look at this. This is the type error we get. This is the error we get when we don't pass in the parameters. So see, now I defined the book to have this init method, right? The class book to have this init method. So if I don't type in the arguments, if I don't pass the arguments, basically if I don't pass the parameters name and price, like name one and price one, I'll get an error because init runs as soon as you instantiate a class object. Okay. So with that, we're done with classes. Now, what if I want two classes to share like similar properties? What if I want two classes that have the same properties? One class, the same properties as some other class. Then we can use inheritance to derive properties for one class from another class. So the class from which we derive the properties is called the parent class, and the class that gets the properties is called the child class. Okay, so inheritance is nothing but a mechanism that allows us to create a hierarchy of classes. One class which gives the properties, another class which takes the properties. So that's called the parent class and the child class. This is the basic syntax. Basically, when you're defining, this is how you normally define a class, right? So when you're inheriting, you basically have to type class, derived class, and inside you have to open and close brackets, inside which you have to type the parent class. So that's the basic syntax for inheritance. Now let's see some code. So look at this code. So it can look pretty overwhelming, but it's not that hard. I'll just give a brief about it. So over here, there's a parent class called company, okay, which has some attributes like CEO and company name. These are the default values for CEO and company name, Mr. X and ABC. Mr. X is the CEO's name, company's name is ABC. Now there's a method under this class called the show method, which basically prints the company name and the CEO's name. Now I'm having child classes over here, a child class over here, sales employees, which takes the parent class as company. You can see the same syntax that I showed you guys over there. It's using it again over here. It's basically inheriting the properties, that means the attributes, as well as the methods of the company class. Now, it additionally also has some properties or some attributes called name and salary. Salary again has a default value 20,000, and it also has a method called the print salary. Okay, so these are additionally present for the sales employee class. Okay, now similarly, we define something known as service employee, which has a method and it has attributes like name, branch name, which are extra apart from CEO and company name that it inherits from the company class. Now let's create an object belonging to the sales employee class. Now see, I have to, only salary has a default value. So you have to pass in the name, Mr. A, let's say. Now let's call the method, this is employee one is the object name, emp1. Now let's call emp1.show. What does emp1.show do? Though show is a method in the parent class, you can still run it with a sales employee, with a child class object, because you derive the properties. You derive the same thing. So it raises no error. When I type emp1 show, I basically show the CEO's name and the company's name. CEO's name and the company's name. And apart from that, I've also run the method for printing the salary. So it prints 20,000. Cool. So next, this is basically a new line character. That means it goes to the next line. Now, employee two, I define, I create an object belonging to the service employee class with the name Mr. B and his branch is Delhi. And if I show the if I run the show method, I basically get the CEO and company name again. And now there's a new method called branch, which I've defined under service employee class. And it just prints the branch name, Delhi. So with that, we are done with object-oriented programming, an intro, and inheritance. So I'll show you guys the um, attendance QR code. So you can scan it and fill the Google form once. Okay, so with that, I'm done with my part of the presentation. Harshit will explain data structures, but before that, do you guys have any doubts you'd like to ask? Also, fill up this form simultaneously.
Can you zoom in a bit?
I mean, I presented the screen like, okay, here.
Okay, if you guys have any doubts, you can raise your hands and we'll let you unmute and ask it out. Yes, Hitesh Kumar, you can unmute. If you guys have any doubts, you can unmute. I have given mic. I've allowed mic. You can unmute if you have any doubts. Note that this is the first half of the session. We'll continue with the second half in a few minutes.
Am I audible? Hello?
Yeah, you are audible.
I had a doubt that in inheritance class, if we have a class 1, that is
Yeah.
the parent class, and we make a child class 1, then we take a child class 2 and we make child class 1 the parent. And
Okay.
we have some extra methods in child class 1. So will they also be passed on to child class 2 along with those of the parent class?
So yeah,
Okay.
it will. Okay, yeah, Janav, you can answer.
Yeah, so let's say, so I'll reframe the question. His question was regarding inheritance. Let's say you have a parent class and a child class. Whatever methods you have in parent class, will it be passed on to child class? Is that your question?
Along with the child class, if we make another class and we make the child class the parent class of the new class.
Okay.
So I'm asking if the methods of child class 1 will pass to child class 2 also.
It will be passed, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You guys can ask your doubts in the chat. We'll move on to the next part. Harshit, you can start now.
Yeah, hello everyone. This is Ashit, a coordinator in AI Club IIT Madras. I hope you guys understood basic Python syntax and classes. I'll be teaching data structures and an example where you can use classes. So I'll share my screen. Is my screen visible to everyone and I am audible?
Yes, it's audible and we can see your screen.
Yeah. So data structures. So data structures are nothing but different ways of storing data. So each format would ease the access of data in a particular case. Let's say you have a programming task from your school, and like dictionary in that case would help. Like list would help in a case. Dictionary should also help in a case. So in this PPT, in this notebook, we'll cover list, tuples, sets, and dictionary. So what are lists? Lists is an ordered data structure where all the elements are separated by commas and enclosed within square brackets. Let's see how to define a list first. So you declare a variable name and use the assignment operator. Basically, you can use different types of, you can have different data types within a list. And once you return the list, you can see the value which has been stored in the list. So in Colab Notebook, you also have an option of just putting the variable name and getting the value within the variable. You can also use print statements to see the value within the variable. So this is how you define a list. Then we'll see how to access individual elements of a list. So in this list declaration, the elements of the list are indexed. The one will have the index 0, 2 will have index 1, hello will have index 3, and world will have index 4, and so on. So when you want to access the first element of the list, what you do is basically you will do list of inside square brackets, you will use the index of the list. You'll use the index of whichever element you want to extract from the list. So list of 0 is 1. As you can see the output over here, it's 1. And list of 2 is nothing but hello. 0, 1, and 2. So hello would be printed. So now we'll see how to calculate the length of the list. You can use the length function, which is inbuilt in Python, and pass the input as the list name. So when you do that, you'll get the output as 5, because in this declaration, we have 5 elements in the list. So the output would be 5. So we have seen about declaring the list and length of the list. Now let's see how to append elements to the end of the list. So the list class has a function called append, which would add elements to the end of the list. To the end of the list, it would add only one element. So we have to give the element as an input to the list. So in order to add hi to the end of the list, which you have declared earlier, what you do is you give the hi as input to the list, input to the append function, and using dot operator, you'll be able to add the element to the end of the list. So once you return the list again, you can see that we would have added the new elements to the list in the end, I and by. So this is how you add elements to a list. So yeah, now we'll see how to create a list using a for loop. So let's say you want a list of numbers from 0 to 19. What you do is you use the for loop, and for I in range 20. For I in range 20, the I value will iterate from 0 to 19. So we have declared an empty list over here with the variable name new list. So the I will range from 0 to 19. So new list dot append I. The I value is 0. For the first iteration, the I value will be 0. And as we continue, the I value gets incremented, and we'll add all the elements to the list. So this is the output. The list will contain numbers from 0 to 19. So yeah, this is creating list using for loop. So there is a simple way of doing this without a for loop. That is basically you use the range function and just put inside and typecast it to a list. So this is also a method to convert to get numbers from 0 to whatever number you want. And when you return the new list, you'll see the output is same. So this output and this output is also same. So this is an easier way of creating list from till a number from 0. So we'll see how to create list of characters in a string using a loop. So we have a word right now. The word is hello. What the final output, what we want is each character of the string, that is each letter, should be an element in the list. So the final output we want is hello. So what do we do is we use the for loop syntax for I in range len of the word. Len of word is 5. So this code line would get converted to for I in range 5, and I will iterate from 0 to 4. When you do new list dot append word of I is nothing but, like in the first iteration, the I value will be 0 and word of I will be h. So new list dot append h, you'll add h to the list and so on. So this continues and you'll add all the letters to the list. So when you return the new list, what you get is the required output, each character as an element in the list. So there is yet another easy way of doing this. Instead of using for loops, you can use this method, which is typecasting it to a list. Like you'll pass hello to this list function, which converts it to list of characters in the word. So when you return the new list, you'll get the same output. So till now, we have seen indexing as well as creating lists using various methods and appending an elements to a list. So there is also yet another way of indexing, so which is negative indexing. So there is negative indexing in list as well as positive. So you can index list in both the ways. We'll see how negative indexing works. You can see the element 5 over here, right? This will be given an index minus 1. 4 will be given -2, 3 will be given -3, and so on. So when you want to access an element from the end of the list, what you do is you do list of -1. Let's say you want the last element. The list of -1 is 5. So when you print it, you'll get the output 5. So let's say you also want element last but one element. So you do list of -2, you'll get 4. So that's how negative indexing works. So yeah. So we'll see how to get a part of a list using positive and negative indexes. This operation is called slicing and is very important. So we'll see, we'll define a list first from 1 to 7. And this is the operation for slicing. So what you do is, let's say you want to get elements from the second index to third index. So what you do is list of inside square brackets, you do 2:4. So instead of 3, you should put 4 over here, since you want to get elements from second index to third index. The last index won't be included. So list of 2:4 will return elements from second index to third index. So when you print the output would be 3,4, just as we expected. So if you want to access a part of the list from starting from an index but till end of the list, so you don't specify anything over here in the second statement. You won't specify the end index. So what this part of code does is you'll get all the elements from second index till the end of the list. So when you print the output, the second index is from 3. So 3 to end of the list will be the output. Similarly, if you want elements from start of the list till an index, let's say 4, what you do is the similar way. In the beginning, you won't specify anything, and in the end, you'll specify the index till the index till which you want the numbers. So list of nothing :4 will return elements till index 4. So which will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Will return till 0, 0, 1, 2, 3. It'll return from till 3 only, because last index won't be included. So the elements will be from 1 to 4. So the output would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is slicing using positive indexes. You can do the same thing using negative indexes. So I'll just go through this quickly. This is from -4 to -2. So -2 won't be included. So indexes -4 and -3 will be returned. So 4, 5 will be returned. -4 till end of the list. -4 indexes for this number till end of the list is 4 till 4 to 7. That will be the output. And from start to -2 index, it will be 1 till 5, because last index won't be included. So there is another way of getting the total list instead of just specifying the list variable name, which is what you do is you won't specify anything in the left and the right side of the colon. This will get you the entire list. So when you do list equal to this code, you'll get the output as true. That is, these both are same. So this is about slicing in list. Now we have learned how to add elements to the list. Now we'll see how to remove. So we'll declare a list 1, 2, 3, 2, and 1. So in order to remove the value 2 in the list, what you do is list.remove. List.remove 2 removes the first occurrence of the value 2. So the first value 2 occurs at index 1. So when you return the list, you can see that 2 has been removed. So this is how you add, remove, slice list. So I think this is up for the basics of the list. So we'll move on to tuples. Tuples is also an ordered data structure. Instead of enclosing within square brackets, we enclose using parentheses over here. So how tuples are different from lists are, tuples are different from lists because they are immutable. That is, you can't change any value at an index. So all the methods of the list apply for tuples except for any method that changes the value of the tuple. So first we'll see how to define a tuple. Yeah, it's similar to list, but you enclose it within parentheses, and when you return the tuple, you'll get the output. Then I told you, right, you can't change the value of a tuple at an index. So when you run this block of code, you'll get an error. You'll get a type error that tuple object doesn't support item assignment. So you can't change any value at an index after you declare a tuple. Yeah. So we'll see an example definition of a tuple. You would intend it to be a tuple, but it won't be a tuple in the end. So if you enclose a number within parentheses and print it, and also print the type of the variable, what you get is it'll be a class int. It won't be considered as a tuple. So for you to declare a tuple with only one element, you add a comma over here. So when you run this, you can see now it's been considered as a tuple. Now it's been considered as tuple. So when you print the type, it will be tuple. So this is an example, but when you don't put the comma, it will be an int. So, but for list, you don't need to put the comma. You can just enclose it within square brackets. So Python interpreter will interpret it as a list. So this was about tuples. So tuples and lists are like sequential data structures, which are used widely. So we'll also see another data structure called set, which is similar to lists and tuples. And this has a property which is unique, which makes it unique. So it's ordered data structures with elements separated by a comma and enclosed within curly brackets. Instead of enclosing it within, if you enclose it with square brackets, you would get a list. If it's with parentheses, you get a tuple. When you enclose it within curly brackets, you would get a list. You will get a set. So so we'll define a set over here. Then when you return it, you can observe that the elements of the set are sorted. So this is an unique property of the set. When you declare a set, no matter how you declare it, when you return it, what you get is you'll get the elements in a sorted fashion. So it will be sorted in ascending order. So that is an unique property of set. You can similarly have elements which are not numbers also. You can have elements which are strings. So when you return this set, you can see that it's ordered alphabetically. So this is the output. You can see that apple has come first, cherry has moved to last, banana has come in the middle. So this is a unique property of sets, which is not there in lists and tuples. So you guys would have learned about intersection of sets, union of two set, difference between two set. So we'll see how to do that programmatically. So we'll declare a set, sample set 1 from 1 to 7, and sample set 2 from 1 to 5, and also 8 in it. So when you can just print the sets, you can see that it has been printed over here. So you can also do intersection operation, which is if the element is present in both the sets, it will be added to the intersection. So 1 is present in both the sets. Till 5 is present in both the sets. So you can see the intersection is from 1 to 5. For doing intersection in Python, you use the ampersand operator. So you just put two sets with an in between, you'll use the ampersand operator. Then yeah, for the union, union is nothing but you'll have the element will be present in the union if either it's present in sample set 1 or sample set 2. So for doing union in Python, you will use the pipe method, which is a straight line. So sample set 1, pipe sample set 2, you'll get the union, which contains all the elements which is either present in set 1 or set 2. So similarly, you can also do the difference. For difference, it's just the subtraction symbol. So when you subtract the sample set 1 minus sample set 2, it will remove all the elements which are present. It will remove all the elements in sample set 1 which are present in sample set 2. So the output would be 6, 7, since all these 5 elements were already present in sample set 2. Here, this was about list, tuples, and sets. Now we'll move on to dictionary. Dictionary is collection of key value pairs. So let's say you have a shop, and in this shop you have it's a stationery shop. So you'll have pen, pencils, book, and sharpener, and you want to maintain a record of the price. So you'll declare a dictionary in this way. So it will be enclosed within curly brackets, and this pen word is a key, and the value to the key is 5. So pen : 5 would assign the key a value 5, which is the price. So similarly, you do it for pencil, book, and sharpener. And when you return the shop, it will be returned in this format as you have defined. So keys of the dictionary. So this is how you define a dictionary. So yeah, there is another property of dictionary which I want to mention here is that the keys of the dictionary should be unique. You can't have pencil over here and another pencil over here and give it a value 4. That won't be possible in dictionary. But what you can have is you can have duplicate values. See over here that pencil has a value 3, but you can have the value say 3 for the sharpener also. So you can have duplicate values, but you can't have duplicate keys. So we'll see how to access the keys of a dictionary using how to access values of a dictionary using keys. So how do you do is, let's say you want the price of the pen later. You forgot what is the price of the pen. Then you do shop of pen. Shop, square brackets, inside you put the key value. So what you get is, you'll get price of the pen is 5 rupees. Since the value for the key is 5, you'll be returned with the value 5. Now in your shop, you add a new stationery item, eraser. So you want to include it in the dictionary also. So you can do that by similar way. You can put inside square brackets, you can put the name of the key you want to add and assign it a value. So you can assign eraser to as value 2 or with whatever you want. And when you return the shop, you can see that eraser has been added to the dictionary. Yeah, we'll see how to remove an element. So in your shop, if the pencil stock is over, you want to remove it from the dictionary, what you do is you do shop.pop. This pop function is present in the class of the dictionary class. So you can access it using a dot operator, and when you pop it, this pencil key value pair would be eliminated from the dictionary. So when you return the shop, you can't see the pencil in the dictionary anymore. So you have successfully removed the key value pair with pencil in it. So this is how you remove elements from a dictionary. We'll see two other functions for getting the keys of the dictionary as well as getting the values from the dictionary, which is if you dot in dot operator, if you put the function keys, you get all the keys of the dictionary shop. You get pen, book, sharpener, eraser. So similarly, you can also get the values using dot values function. So shop dot values, you'll get all the values 5, 10, 3, and 2. As you can see, the values have been returned. So this was about dictionaries, and I have completed teaching about lists, tuples, sets, and dictionaries. So you guys can try out this question, which I have hosted it on slido.com. You can scan the code, QR code, or you can use the password 3823580. I'll share it in the screen. You guys are able to see the screen, right? The Slido window. You can join using this code 3823580, or you can scan the QR code given in the screen. So the question is, let the set be defined as S1 equals in curly braces 371 false comma 5. What will be the output when you print S1? Remember that the set will be sorted. Like you can when you create a set like in a format which is not sorted, when you print the set, it will be in a sorted format. I'll give you guys 2 minutes to attempt the question. You should also know that the value of false in Python. So generally, false and true are given a value. You can think upon that and answer the question. I think I'll show the results of the poll. Most of you have answered the correct answer. I'll lock the voting and show the correct answer. Yeah, generally in Python, false is given a value 0 and true is given a value 1. So when you sort this set, what happens is false goes to the start and 1, 3, 5, 7 would be ordered in ascending order. So yeah, that's it for the question. So we have learned about the various data structures in Python called lists, tuples, dictionaries, and set. Now we will use the concept of classes and objects which Nishita had taught and build a small game. So in this example, we'll create an animal superclass, a dog class, and a cat class. A dog class and cat class will inherit from the animal class. So first, we'll try creating the animal class. So we'll define the class animal. Inside it, we'll have an init method. Init method is basically if you want to initialize any variables which is not common, you'll use the init method to define it. So we'll have so this game is I want to explain the game before. So the game is we'll define two animals. We'll define its attacking values, and in the end, we'll run the game and see which animal wins. So that is the basic idea of the game. So we'll start with implementing the animal class. So in animal class, you need a name for the animal, the level of the animal, and life for the animal. So that we'll declare using the init method. So, but instead of initializing the attack method over here, this attack is different for each animal. So let's say we have an animal dog named Spiky. So that would have a different attack values than cat. So we can't define the attack method specifically for all animals. So we will define it. It's specific. Like for animal dog, it will be different values, and for animal cat, it will be different values. So we'll just mention to the class animal that this method would be declared later, and we will pass it. So now we'll create animal dog with name Spiky, level 4 and life 25. And when you print animal dog dot name, you'll get Spiky as the printed value. And when you print animal dog dot level, you'll get level 4. So this is how you declare a class. And now we'll build classes, specific classes, which will inherit from the animal class. So dog class inherits from animal class. And in the init method, you'll use super dot init. Since the name, level, life, and all were declared in the class animal, after inheriting, you can just use this block of code, which will inherit all the declared variables, and the init method would be made for this dog class. So we'll just test this part out, and we'll make the attack method. So dog, we'll give it a name, level, and life. And yeah, this dog is able to inherit from the animal class. So when you print it, the values will be as you have declared. So this is how you inherit from super class animal and give the variables to the dog class. So now we'll build specific attack method for the dog. So we didn't declare this attack method previously because it's specific for each animal. So now we'll declare the attack method. For in the attack method, the dog needs to specify the attack type it wants. So for basic attack, the damage it can cause is 2. For signature, it will be 5, and finisher it will be 10. This is specific for the dog animal. So when you do the declaration, you'll give the init parameters. Then when you use the attack method in the dog object, what you'll get is, so you'll pass it a attack type, which we have declared it earlier. So the attack type, since the attack type is finisher, the damage will be assigned value 10. And when you return the damage, you'll get the value 10. So we have built the dog class. So similarly, we'll do it for cat also. So yeah, this also inherits from the animal class. And as you can see, these values are a bit different for the cat class. It's 1, 4, and 9 over here. So this will also return the damage after calculating the code. So we'll define a cat name Whisker with level 4 and life 25. And when you use the attack method, you will be able to see the value return. So since you are using finisher, the damage will be assigned a value 9 and it will be returned. So since we have defined the dog class and cat class, we'll build a game in which the dog would fight the cat, and we'll announce the winner later, like in the end of the code. So this is a basic game function. This would have this would take the arguments as the animal 1 and animal 2. So first we'll have certain print statements, which are the game has started, the animals are battling. Animal 1 dot name will get the name of animal 1. Animal 2 dot name would get the value of the animal 2. So since animal 2 entered the game, animal 1 entered the game first, we'll give the chance for it to attack first. So yeah, so the game would continue till animals in both of the animals' life are greater than 0. So while animal 1 dot life greater than 0 and animal 2 dot life greater than 0, this loop would be executed. So if first, since the animal 1 dot play is true, if animal 1 dot play, this block of code would be executed first. So we'll randomly choose between these 3 attacks for the attack type. This can be done by importing random, which is a module in Python. Random.choice selects an string from a list of strings. So it is randomly select between basic attack, signature, and finisher. And we'll get the damage value when you use the attack method. So we'll subtract that from animal2.life and print the animal1.name is attacking with its attack type. And we'll print one more line so that it will be formatted later. And we'll declare animal1.play equals false. Earlier it was true. So the next chance would be given to the animal2. So else in the else, so this when this value turns out to be false, this part of the code would be executed. So yeah, this animal2 also chooses randomly between any attack, and from animal1.life will subtract the value of will subtract the damage given by animal2, and will print it using print statements. Animal1.name is attacking with its attack type, and we also change the value contained in animal1.play as true, so that next chance the animal would get to attack. Then we can also print the current life of animal1. Current life, animal1 has life this much, animal2 has life this much. So in the end of the code, you need to specify if animal1's life is greater than 0, that means it has survived the end of the game. And else, so we'll print the winner as animal1. If this is false, you'll print the winner as animal2. Since animal1's life is less than 0, it is obvious that animal2 would have life greater than 0. So we'll create two animals for the fight. The first we'll create an animal dog with name Spiky, level 5 and life 15, and cat with name Whisker, level 4 and life 15. And when you call the game, so earlier print statements would be executed. The game has started. Animals battling are Spiky versus Whisker. First come, first serve. Spiky would get to attack. So it randomly choose between its attack and it's giving its signature move. So then after giving its signature, since signature has a value, dog signature has a value of 5, uh, from life of 15, which we have declared it earlier for Whisker, the life would go to 10. It will decrease to 10. So next chance, Whisker will attack. So Whisker is attacking with its basic attack. So Whisker has chosen basic attack, and from Spiky's life, 1 will be deducted because basic attack for Whisker is a value 1. So next, Spiky attacks with its finisher, and which has a value 10, and Whisker value goes to 0. So since Whisker has died, the winner is Spiky. So this is just an example for you guys to to understand about how to implement classes and objects. So you can scan this QR code for your attendance. If you guys haven't filled it already, you can scan this and fill it once more. That's it for the content part. We have seen data structures and also a game which uses the concepts of classes and objects to understand it. So you can scan this QR code and fill your attendance if you haven't filled it already. I'll give you 2 minutes for you guys to fill the attendance.
We'll stay back for some time to answer all of your doubts. The session was supposed to be only Python programming and down to the basics. In the upcoming sessions, it will get a little tougher. So if you felt today's session was very easy, kudos. If you have any doubts, you can ask us. Otherwise, looking forward to meeting you in the next session. We'll be sharing all the resources with you guys. Yes, the session is over. You can scan the QR code and fill the attendance if you have not done that.
And also, next session is on the topic data analysis and processing. It's on Wednesday. It covers NumPy and Pandas, which are essential for ML. So the next session is quite important for you guys to understand ML.
We will be sharing some assignments with you for your practice. In case you were not able to attend any of, in case you weren't able to attend any of the classes, you can do the assignments and make up for not attending a particular class and get your certificate.
You guys can raise your hand for doubts, and we'll unmute you, and you can ask your doubt.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, you are audible.
I want to know that from where can you practice data structures?
You can look into resources like Geeks for Geeks, HackerRank, which has like a basic implement. You'll have basic programming task over there where you can try out those tasks for data structures.
Okay, thanks.
Someone in YouTube has asked to repeat the dog example. I'll repeat that one, then you guys can ask your doubts.
Hello?
Yeah, I am able to hear you. So in YouTube, someone had asked to repeat the dog example. So this is the definition of the dog class, which inherits from the animal class. So it inherits all the variables from the animal class using this code block. You would get the name, level, and life. And similarly, you'll create the attack method for this respective dog class. So with attack type, for basic attack, you will assign damage value 2. And for signature attack, you will assign 5 and so on. Like this is particularly for the dog class. Then return the damage. When you declare the dog class, you'll give the name, level, life, which are present, which have been inherited from the animal class. And when you call the function with an argument of finisher, you'll get the value 10 as we have declared it earlier. So this was about dog class. This is how you define a dog class, inheriting from some other class. This is how you define a class which inherits from a superclass.
Hello,
Yeah,
can you hear me?
yeah, you are audible.
I was able to understand this class because I had some knowledge about these topics from books, but the next session's content are quite new to me, so it would be great if you guys could reduce your pace I know it's hard to teach all these concepts in 2 hours, but if you could do something about it, it would be nice.
Yeah, this was about basics of Python, right? So
Yeah,
we had to cover it a little bit fast. From next session, we'll have a slide as well as code implementation separately. So it'll be much slower than this one. So since this was only about like recapping the knowledge of Python, it was a bit fast. We had to cover entire Python language, right? So it'd be difficult for us to have a long session. So uh, yeah, this will be then from next sessions. It will be much slower.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, am I
Yeah.
audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
My doubt is related to cell in OOPS, what it does and how exactly it works, and then constructor, basically what are constructors.
Can you repeat your question? I wasn't able to hear it.
In the lecture, Nishita ma'am mentioned constructors. So what are constructors and the working of self and init? I got the working of init, but the working of self, what is self and how does it function? Because I can
So
see it's used as several places.
yeah, so basically, self is nothing but if you want to access something from this the animal class. Let's say you want to get the variable name over here. So let's say you want to print the name of the. I'll show you an example. So def print name. So you'll pass self to it. When you print, when you want to access anything outside the inside the function of the class, what you do is you call the self dot name. So one second. So this is the use case of self. So now when we execute the function, I'll run this block of code. So when you do cat dot print name and pass the values. Sorry. Oh, you should just on print name. So you'll see the name has been printed. So basically the self is used to get the variables which had been declared in the class. So self.name, you'll get the name inside the function. Self.level, you'll get the level of the cat or dog. And self.life, you'll get the life. So that is the use of self. Did you get it?
I got it. But why are we declaring it as an argument in the definition?
Because this function wouldn't know all these variables and their values. So in order to get these values into this function, what you do is you pass the self. So what this does is you pass everything which had been defined before. So when you pass self, all these name, level, life would be passed. So when you use dot operator, you'll get the name. If you want some other variables, you'll get it. You'll get that also if it had been declared earlier.
Okay. Just one last thing. Can you please elaborate on the concept of polymorphism a little bit?
Yeah. So constructor is nothing but this init is there, right? The constructor is a function which is called when you instantiate a class. So when you instantiate the cat class, init method would get executed by itself. So that is a constructor. So yeah. You don't need
Okay, thank you.
to execute a constructor with by calling. So let's say attack is not a constructor, but you have to call it using dot operator. So it won't be executed when you instantiate a class. But init method will be executed no matter here you didn't call the init method, right? But it gets it gets called. So that is constructor. Constructor is nothing
So
but yeah,
basically constructors are used for creating instances.
yeah.
Okay. A little bit about polymorphism, if possible, you can elaborate what is polymorphism and its need basically.
I didn't get you. What was your question? So you want more?
Polymorphism. Polymorphism.
Yeah. So polymorphism means like having different forms. So in this example, one second, I'll give you an example.
Okay, I think he's facing an issue. So essentially, yeah, I think I'll explain it. I'm Mahendra, one of the team leads. So polymorphism basically allows you to, so you can take the example of function overloading, where you can use the same function name, and let's say you want to use it for multiple purposes. For example, there might be a case where you want to print the name of a person, and that person has a first name and a last name. In that case, you want to print their entire name. But let's say you only pass their first name into that function. That would allow you to do that as well instead. It essentially, you could use the same function name, and just based on the number of variables in it, you could do that. That is an example polymorphism. We haven't extensively covered it in this session because it's not very relevant to the stuff we'll be explaining in the future sessions.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
Yeah, go on.
Hello, I am audible.
Yes, you're audible.
Actually, I am having a doubt relating to Microsoft Teams.
Okay, what happened?
Actually, I am unable to join with the provided link, the Microsoft team, and no one has added me till now.
Okay, for now you can join via YouTube itself. It should be okay.
So can you resolve that issue? But
Okay, our tech team is trying to resolve the issue right now because there are thousands of students and we haven't added a lot of them. We have to go and resolve it for each and every one, right? So it's not
okay,
a really easy task from our side, which is why we are using YouTube Live for now. So YouTube Live is equally given importance. We have our coordinators monitoring the messages that are going out there. So if you ask your doubts there, it'll be answered as well. And you also have the
Okay.
WhatsApp channel to ask your doubts. So you can ask it there as well.
So, and the assignments and the relative stuffs like resources in WhatsApp group, you will provide it or in the Microsoft
Yes,
Teams?
it'll be in the WhatsApp group.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Ref Scientist and Sangam, you guys can unmute and ask doubts. Or if you guys don't have doubts, we can stop the
Hello.
session. Yeah, go on.
So about the assignments, will there be like any deadline or like we have to do the assignments the day it is given? Is it like that?
No, it is not like that. The whole point of all these sessions is for you guys to learn and explore.
Hmm.
So we won't set hard deadlines. We'll give you enough amount of time.
Oh, okay, okay. And about the AI implementation part, so will it be like starting from the second or third session?
Uh, could you please repeat what you said? AI?
About the AI implementation part, which was like the I mean agenda of this session
Okay, okay,
as by
got
the
it,
name.
got it. No, it'll be starting from the next session.
Oh, okay.
Uh, we'll be covering NumPy and Pandas, which is going to be
Huh,
really
huh, huh.
important for AI
Mm-hmm.
in general, in data
Yep.
processing. The entire part of AI involves three things. One is going to be getting data and figuring out your model and getting outputs. Okay, that's a very simple way of putting it. And getting data is a very big task, which is why we have kept a complete session for that. While we'll be teaching simple things and not going into more of the global holistic picture, uh, I think it's an important session to attend.
Mhm. And about like joining the channel, I have one doubt that is like in the video about joining this channel, there was a like whole bunch of like details we were having to fill up apart from the OTP and all. But when I tried joining from my laptop, you following the same steps, like there wasn't they didn't ask about any details or anything. It straight away signed me in, even after following the steps and giving the verification code. And in the manual it was said that there will be a Teams icon of where I can see all the channels I'm in. So I can't find any icon like that, so I don't know if I have been added to every channel or not. So
If you are in the WhatsApp group, you have nothing to worry about.
okay, okay, fine. Yeah, I'm in the WhatsApp group, so.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello. I have a doubt. Can you please explain that part where the working is of the project? Can you explain the part that is working of the game where you can? I am choosing the random dog to attack and that part.
Do you want him to explain that part again?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Harshit, can you go over it again? Okay. To give an overview of what that is, it is just for you guys to understand how classes work. Okay. Second thing, to use a lot of data structures. Third is to use some properties like inheritance and understand different parts of the code as well. So I'll ask him to explain. If you have any specific doubt, you can keep yourself unmuted and ask. Okay, Harshit, can
Okay.
you go?
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 second. I'll share my screen again. Is my screen visible? So
Yeah.
basically in this random part, what we do is we'll randomly choose between 3 attacks. So we'll import the random module. So in the random module, we'll have a function called choice, which basically selects an animal from the list. So that is about random function. So it'll be random. So when for let's say randomly select basic attack. So this basic attack type will be assigned the value basic attack, and it will be passed on to it.
Okay.
Do you have any doubts in any lines of code? You can ask. Otherwise, I'd probably suggest you to run the code yourself and start playing around with Colab as well.
Okay. I have that doubt. How are you? How are you joining that part where you are taking the name, level, and attack as input of the dog and joining with the working? How are you
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
that?
I've repeated. So you'll create a dog and cat, right? So we'll give the all the parameter values over here, the name, level, and life. And cat, you'll also give the name, level, and life. So when you pass the dog variable, dog and cat, what this does is you'll be able to access it later. So let the animal one will become dog, animal two will become cat. So when you do dot name, you'll get the name of the dog. So that is how I combine.
Okay, this is different part, and the one where you have taken initializations of the names and all that, and that's a different part. And this the last that small lines of code is joining the two thing actually, the working and the initializations.
Yeah, that is different. The initialization is different. So first you have to create the whatever animal you have to like which are fighting, right? So that initialization we are doing it over here.
Okay, and we have to
And
do with we are doing it using the random, the initial, the working. You are doing it with random actually, no? And
this one, right? The
yeah,
choosing the
yeah,
attack type.
attack. Okay,
So that
choice
is
and
random. Attack type is random, but the name of the animal and all is we are assigning it over here in the bottom.
okay. So how they are attacking in which part? So how will that be determined? So is it
It's
the
basically that.
cursor?
Yeah, it's basically you'll randomly choose between these 3 attacks, right? So when you pass the
Yeah.
attack type to the attack method of animal one, this animal one will return a value, will return the damage value that you will subtract it from animal two dot life. So
Okay.
life of animal two will be detected. So you can see in this print statement. So first is attacking with its signature. Signature has value 5. So earlier whisker life was 15. So now it's 10. So that is.
Okay.
So the someone had asked about polymorphism example, right? So Python doesn't support overloading apparently. So you can check Geeks for Geeks article for it. So I was going through, I was getting an example for you, but I think it won't, Python doesn't support function overloading. Does anyone do anyone have doubts like in the code or in the in the data structures part? You can ask me.
Hello.
Yeah.
Can you just go to that import, and after import random, what you have did? Just can you please
Here.
explain here after that def, and how why you have taken so many print?
No, it's like for the output to be like in a good format, I use the print statements. So when you just specify print, it'll print a new line. So I'll get new lines over here. So two new lines. It's just for the
Okay.
game to look much appealing. That's it.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay, thank you. No more doubts. If I get any doubt between the sessions, so can I ask in the WhatsApp
Yeah,
group?
yeah. I'll respond to you in the WhatsApp. You can ask me
Okay,
in the
thank you.
group. Yeah,
Okay, thank.
for the attendance keyword.
Hello.
Yeah,
Can you explain me again on that definition of unit path, like what it's used for in the class part?
yeah. So basically, init is used for initialization. So what init does is, see, show it with an example with the dog example. So init is basically initialization. So initialization is you'll give values for the dog's name, level, and life. So in the animal class, which I have declared earlier, we have the init method to be as self.name equals name, self.level equals level, self.life equals life. So you'll specify values over here, right? Name equals spiky, level equals 4, life equals 25. All these values will get stored in the self parameter. So self.name, when you call it any other like in any function, you'll be able to get the declared values later. So when you do self.name for this animal dog, you will get the value spiky inside the class. Outside, you can just do dot name to get the value.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll end the meeting now. Rev scientist, do you still have a doubt or? Okay, guys, thank you for coming.
Thank you, guys.